What's up, everybody? Mark with Cardivox Academy here, and today I'm pretty excited because we're doing another co-reaction. We've been doing a lot of co-stuff recently. Pretty much every video we've put on for the past month, we've got guests on the channel. Either it's been a co-reaction or it's been one of these live streams where we're judging round 2 entries with our guest judges. So it's been, let me tell you something. Cardivox Academy has been a little weird this past month, but it's been a lot of fun, and I appreciate all you who have stuck around and are enjoying the content. Now, if you're new, if you're like, hey, I just saw Mental Cruelty's really cool new song, and I'm wanting to watch reactions about it. So if you're new here, again, my name is Mark. I'm a metal vocalist myself. I'm in a band called Kardashev. We're on Metal Blade Records. You can listen to our music if you want. If you don't want to, I won't know about it, so it won't hurt my feelings. And I am also a full-time metal vocal coach. I teach people how to make metal vocal noises, stuff like, you know, safely and efficiently, so they can meet their metal vocal needs. And we actually do have an e-course. You can check it out at cardivoxacademy.com. I give one-on-one lessons, but I also have a false chord fundamental e-course for those of you wishing to get started or wanting to start your metal vocal journey, or, you know, wanting to just refine your technique, see where the cracks lie. It's there for your enjoyment. Now, I'm very excited because this is a co-reaction. We've got Lukas of Mental Cruelty. If you've been following Cardivox Academy, then you know I loved the last single, Nordlis, which I probably said wrong, but whatever. I pulled out a sword. I was chopping things up, and that's a good marker of whether or not I really like a song. So we're going to pull him in a minute. But if you enjoy the content, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Mention whether or not you like the song or dislike the song in the comments. If you dislike the song, you're wrong. I haven't heard it yet, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to like it. And that's all I got. So let's do an awkward YouTube pause, and let's bring in our guest. Here we go. All right, hell yeah. So as you can see, we've got Lukas here. Oh, Lukas here. What's up, man? How you doing?
Hey, what's up, you guys? Thank you so much for having me. I told you before, it's a great honor. It's a great honor to be on the channel. So yeah, thank you.
Well, you know, I appreciate the kind words. And as we were talking about before we started rolling, I'm very excited to have you on the channel as well, because number one, you know, as I've mentioned across many Cardivox Academy videos, deathcore is kind of the bread and butter of what I teach, but I have kind of gotten a little bit burnt out on just listening to it nonstop all the time. You know, it's like always deathcore all the time. But I really enjoyed Nordlis, and I really enjoyed you know, everything I've heard from y'all so far. So I'm interested in talking about this video, talking about this song. Ever since doing Nordlis, I actually haven't listened to much else, because I'm like, you know, we want to get this guy on a channel. I want to do like the whole first time reaction thing. So I'm excited, dude. I'm excited to talk vocals with you. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Now, with that being said, let me ask you this. Oftentimes, people who I have on the channel, they want me to go into the song blind. They're like, hey, you know, you just listen and you gather what you want. But do you want to give me any context? Do you want to give me anything to think about or to notice? Or do you want to say anything for the viewers? Like, hey, pay attention to this moment, or hey, keep an ear out for that.
Oh yeah, hell yeah. So first of all, thank you so much for liking Nordlis that much. I really love the video of yours, like banging to the last black metal breakdown. That was so much fun to see that. And yeah, like the new track Obsessis A Daemonio, there is some context I could give you. Like, don't want to ruin the mystery, but like I wrote the lyrics, like I was I thought of exorcism, and I was like searching in the internet for topics of that, and I found an ancient, like medieval I found a medieval Latin text of a Christian rituals, and that's called Rituale Romanum in Latin.
Dang.
And
okay.
There's one chapter who is named De Exorcisandis Obsessis A Daemonio. And they write in Latin like exorcism rituals and all this kind of stuff. And then I searched for like in translation, and I found one. And then I wrote the lyrics, like inspired by all these texts of medieval Christian exorcism. And basically the whole song is like a story. It's a fight between a priest and a demon, and they like fighting each other, and the priest is like preaching, and the demon is like arguing against him, and is like spitting his demon vocals. And and I think we leave it open in the end if like who's winning, like the priest or the demon. That's like the story behind Obsessis A Daemonio.
Okay. Hell yeah. Now, that being said, so that's super interesting. I have a question for you because if I remember correctly, this, yeah, okay. Yeah. So this is track 2 on your most recent release. So does this story carry throughout the album, or is each one of these songs more of like an episodic, like kind of self-contained story within a theme?
Yes, some people ask us if it's a concept album, and to be honest, we as a band, we really do not see it as a concept album. But I mean, if you listen to the music and you find something of a concept there, and you really see it as a concept album, I mean, you're free to go, and you're free to interpret whatever you want to. And I think overall in the album, you have like this topic of godly figures and their relationship to mankind and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like really a topic that goes through all those songs, and which was also like a topic in Nautilus, where because you had like these northern lights and like Vikings and northern tribes, they were like afraid of the northern lights, or they were preaching to the northern lights and thought they are something really positive, like maybe like the souls of the fallen soldiers like dining in Valhalla. So yeah, it goes through the whole album, like these relationships from godly figures to mankind. And I think Obsessis A Daemonio is something similar. So yeah, this story does not go like through the album, but like the topic in itself a little bit.
Okay. Hell yeah. That's exciting. That's awesome, man. I'm really excited to have that context. And one thing that I think is cool, like I think a lot of times, and this isn't something that we hear in deathcore, and then we'll play the song, everybody. Don't worry. But I think one thing that I hear a lot and I read a lot, in not just deathcore, this is kind of a comment about metal overall, is sometimes the lyrics, you look at them and they just look like a bunch of like big dark words kind of put in succession, like, I am the pit of hell and those, that sort of thing. But I think
Satan.
Exactly. That's my favorite like black metal moment when Gaul is like Satan. It's the best. But I think it's really cool, that so much research has gone behind the lyrical content, like kind of similar to Shadow of Intent. I know Ben is like big into history, so he like writes a ton of like he does like a ton of historical research. So it's cool that like you've got like this kind of like cultic, archaic like research that you've put behind the song. So that's really cool. That's really awesome.
Yeah,
I'm
great
excited
that
to
we
hear
have this in common. That's interesting. Yeah.
You two should hang out, get a beer, be best friends.
Oh yeah, we
play
should
play frisbee golf. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Answer my messages, Ben.
Yeah, Ben.
Ben.
So one thing I want to mention before we get started is I talked to you a little bit about this before we started recording, but one of my students is a huge fan, and actually one of his questions is about this song, and I'll mention that question first so I don't forget it, and we'll answer it when we get to the point of the song. But it's specifically about your articulation at 4 minutes and 15 seconds when you say the phrase "your allies will burn." He's very interested in how you manage distortion and articulation at the same time. So when we hear it, we'll go into that, but that's something for us to keep in our noggin.
Yes, okay. Let's keep that in mind. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Well, anything else before we get going on this song?
Yeah, nothing else. Let's jump right into it. I hope you're going to enjoy it.
Okay. I'm pretty sure I will. All right. Ready, set, another YouTube pause, go. All right, I gotta pause it somewhere. That's as good a place as any. I'm starting to feel like this song is gonna be kind of nonstop, so I'm just gonna have to pause at spots where I want to, versus like waiting for transitions and stuff. I already have like a bajillion things I want to ask you and talk about, so I'll try to limit it to the most important. Normally, I kind of get my non-vocal questions out of the way first, but I actually want to talk to you about vocals first. So one thing that I've noticed, I did see your one take playthrough that you did. I can't remember the name of the song.
Symphony of a Dying Star.
That's the one. That's the one. Symphony of a Dying Star. And one thing I noticed about the way that you go about your vocals that I find really interesting is that oftentimes when you see people hitting like low vocals or high vocals, you see an extreme change in embouchure and in vocal or oral tract shape, right? So for me, for me to get like a really deep guttural, I have to really drop my jaw, really curl my lips, curl my tongue. I have to do a lot of manipulation of this space, to get that big, deep sound. Whereas with you in your one take playthrough and some of the test vocals you did before we started recording, you get these really cavernous, very echoey sounds, and I don't see a lot of change in the actual mouth, which I think is like really interesting. I'm like, how the hell is he getting all that like all that boom, right? All like, how are you manipulating those formants so well? And you're like one of the most relaxed vocalists I've ever seen. Is basically what I'm trying to say. So I guess this is kind of a broad question, and if I need to narrow it, I guess I can. But like, do you feel like that's something that comes really, really naturally to you, or have you spent like hours and hours and hours finding these perfect positions for your tongue to be in and for your lips to be in and things like that for you to get these big, thick tones?
Yeah, I think you have to stay a little bit relaxed. Like, I'm seeing the video now, like Symphony of a Dying Star, and I think I'm a little bit too relaxed. I think, like, but come on, dude, like, do something, like, feel the music, what's going on? But yeah, it's like I recorded this in this vocal booth right behind me. Like, so I have like a square meter room. So of course, there's limited air, there's limited space. So I just cannot go fully bonkers like with the complete performance, because then I'm eventually going to run out of air.
True.
And yeah, so but yeah, I think it's more like it's a little bit more compressed. Maybe my lows, I have like two lows, and I think the one you just heard is like the little bit more compressed one, which I think I was listening to a lot of Cheltergren and a lot of Darko. And I was really listening to like the old Lorna show where Tom Barber was still the vocalist, and I'm such a huge fan of Tom Barber. And he has like this real barking low, these like this, like Darko, this pretenders,
yeah,
like this. And this is like a little bit more compressed, but it sounds like really gnarly and barking. And I was like, yeah, listening to a lot of Tom Barber and Chelsea Grin, and I tried to copy it a little bit, yeah. And yeah, that's what I do.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you this, like, I don't blame you one bit, because Tom Barber, like I've mentioned on the channel before, but Tom Barber is one of my favorites. I think like his, like you said, low barky tones and like sort of like out of the side of the mouth, like distortion he gets is really awesome. So let me ask you this, when it comes to like your distortion, right? This is one of the most interesting questions for me, I think, is when you do your distortion, what does it feel like to you? Because one thing I find with a lot of my students and with a lot of learning vocal technique is having like a mind-body connection, being able to say like, it feels like this, or I feel it here, or I feel it there, even if what we feel is kind of abstract or in our own terms, is really important to being able to be a vocalist. So when you're creating that, let's just use that same low that you did, right? When you're creating that low, what does it feel like to you in your mouth, and where are you feeling that rumbly, gritty sensation?
Yeah, I think it's really at the, like here, like at the back of your throat. I think I mean, like screaming is highly individual. Everybody is going to sound a little bit different, and everybody has like different body types and different voices and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I think I'm really lucky that I have like maybe huge false chords, or that I have like huge huge distortion, that like it really feels like a huge distortion back down my throat. So yeah, that's kind of how it feels like. Yeah, Never thought about this, to be honest, but yeah, that's just how it feels like.
Oh, dude, yeah, like that. Like that's one of the ways that I really like find and manage new screams is I find like a sensation, and then rather than memorizing like, oh, my tongue is up here and I'm turned this way, I just kind of remember that feeling. So one thing I want to do with you, if you want to, you don't have to. I did this with Ben. I've done this with a couple other people, and it's just a really kind of fun way to like dissect what you're doing. Is you take a scream, and I'll show you what I mean. I'll do one. I'll do a low as well. You take a scream, and then you slowly turn down the volume while holding on to the grit. Right? You turn down the volume while holding on to the grit, and I'll show you what I mean. So if I did like a guttural, like a right, I'm gonna turn down that volume. And that's what I'm left with right there.
Okay.
Right? And so it's a cool way to kind of see what's going on and what you're doing, because with your voice, I don't hear like a pure false chord or a pure fry sound. I hear, and this is really common in deathcore, sort of like a mix of things going on at once. And since we can't put a scope down your throat, maybe not today, this is the next best way. Do you want to give it a try?
Yeah, I never did that actually before, but we can try it.
Yeah, let's do it. It's fun.
Let's give it a try. And this is what we left with.
You know, that's interesting because it kind of sounds, it kind of sounds like what
dark in here. I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're good, man. You're good. Oh, there. Yeah. And there he is. And that's interesting. So it kind of sounds. Are you able to do throat singing? Are you able to do like? Yeah,
like the thing that Will Ramos does, like for warming up.
Yeah, it's a common warble. So there are two things that we can do. We can do like Kargaria, which uses our false chords, or we can do something lower, which uses our arytenoids. And it sounds like you're using more of an arytenoidal sound. Are you able? I'm poking and prodding you. I totally. Yeah, that sounds. Sounds a little bit more arytenoidal to me, which is interesting because that's what I do, and our lows sound totally different. Like your low and my low sounds crazy different. But it sounds like we're kind of starting with like a similar bass. What does that feel like when you do that like gurgly like sort of sound?
Yeah, it's like you feel like the vibration like really down in the middle of your throat, like really.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it feels like your false chords are like vibrating all over.
Going yeah,
just like that, yeah.
Cool, hell yeah. Well, we'll keep that in context when we listen to more of this song. Sorry, I just started having fun and going like full playground. You know, I'm like,
that's so interesting. That's so interesting because you know I'm like really self-taught. When I started like doing vocals, I was like 16 years old. There were no tutorials on YouTube. There was like nothing. It was ungoogleable. You could not find anything, so I just had like to do everything just like by trial and error, and just by listening and looking at other vocalists. And it's like so interesting, like to really consciously think about the things that you are doing. Like for example, like how does it feel? Like how is it if you like turn it down a little bit now that you get to the core and to the base of it? So yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah, and you know, it's a really good way for you know, people, not just you, not just me, but vocalists in general, to kind of expand and broaden their horizons. Because, you know, this like if I do like more of like a, you know, which is like kind of like pretty standard like high vocal. If I turn that down, all of a sudden it's kind of like Carrick Angren, right? Nice face seems friendly. And so when you kind of like learn what it sounds like and learn when it goes different directions, you're like, oh shit, I can make like 40 more sounds than I realized. But anyway, let's go ahead. Let's listen to more of this song because it's a bop. It's dope so far. And then I'll probably have a bunch more questions for you. Sound good?
Yeah, sounds great.
Hell yeah, man. Okay, well, there's a ton of stuff we got to talk about there. Holy cannoli! So I think I actually want to start this being a little bit. You know, I had a lot of very directed questions last time. I think I want to start this one a little bit more broad, which is like, you know, if somebody was to ask you like what your approach is to vocal writing, one thing that I've really been learning from these contest streams that we've been doing with all these vocalists is that me and all these other vocalists have entirely different ways of writing lyrics and coming up with the vocal patterns that we're going to use. So like this song is, you're vocally incredibly acrobatic, right? There's a ton of cool stuff going on. You're sliding your tongue around, you know, pushing vocals out, rounding your vowels, thinning your vowels. It's just, there's a lot going on here. And I guess like when you're writing these sections, is it, you just go with your first instinct? Do you do a bunch of drafts? What's your sort of methodology or approach when you're writing these sections?
I think it really came naturally, like with the song, and especially like the story of the song, because like here at this part that we listened right now, that we listened to like 1 second ago, you have like this story and this conversation between the priest and the demon, where the priest is like, "You're nameless, I command you," and the demon is like, "Nah, fuck you, nail your bastard son back on his cross," and you have like this conversation. We really like where they go back and forth. So it was like really natural to incorporate different vocal styles for these different sections. And so I think this song became so diverse. And you have also like these architects stylish screams. They are a little bit more like with voice. With a little bit more voice to it, and so that's how like all these different styles came up. I think,
Yeah. And I loved that like narrative moment that you had where, you know, and lead us not into temptation. And you're like doing like that storytelling, you know, and it's interesting to hear because a lot of times, you know, I'm trying to think of how to phrase this question. A lot of times people who aren't into metal and aren't listening to metal, they might hear like these more narrative sections like this, or that you sometimes get in like Carrick Angren or Behemoth, or, you know, these bands, and they're just like, oh well, you know, it's just talking, but there's actually like so much character acting in there. Like I definitely felt like you had like that sort of like, not preacher, but that like priestly, like authoritative like vibe going on, which was pretty cool. Is that something that like you just walked up to the mic and you were like, boom, one take Nancy, or did you do a couple takes trying to get like that voice acting aspect of that take kind of like down pat?
Yeah, I think it was like really a product of collaboration, because we were I was like with Noel and Marvin, who are responsible like for the main songwriting, and I had like these lyrics and the story, and they were bringing so many ideas to the table and say, yeah, I think this is like more preachy, so you should just do it like with more voice and more like, we always like comparing it to the architect style of voice.
Sure.
Like this, tell me thy name, and, you know, like this with a little bit more voice. And this I think it's more like came up in the collaboration of the songwriting. You always have to like bounce around ideas. I guess that's not just my creativity in the track.
No, that's so true, dude. Like that is so true. Oftentimes, like when people have a specific song from one of their, or specific section from one of our songs that they like, it's something that we all, you know, put our brains together on. And like, I don't know how it goes with y'all, but like every once in a while, sometimes it's like, no, I have the best idea. But really, when, you know, when all the ideas combine, you usually get like a better product. You know what I mean? Shoot, I had another question for you and I forgot what it was. Well,
was it vocal related?
Well, of course. What, you know what? When in doubt, let's talk about high vocals. So, your high vocals are dope. They're extremely consistent. The tone is very, very steady. You're able to move them very, very, very consistently and with a sense of ease, I think. What came first, or did you kind of, like you said, you're self-taught? What came first? Were highs easier or were lows easier for you?
Or I think highs were a little bit easier.
Same here.
Yeah, I kind of think because you just push highs and then you just go really really high. You don't really have to like play with the air so much, because lows you have to do really controlled kind of. If you push lows too hard, there are no lows anymore. They turn into highs. And just highs you can just go 100% and then you're gonna hit a high eventually. So, but yeah, I mean, if you try a high with a little bit more false chords, a little bit more tongue, as you say it, then you have to be a little bit more controlled. But highs like these typically black metal highs definitely came first.
Yeah. And highs it came a lot easier for me as well. You know, I remember when I was trying to learn, I was learning like the very old school, very like basic, like false chord, like that, you know, like it's rolled, like that very like Nathan Explosion high. And I remember I was in the car listening to Abigail Williams, and I just kind of accidentally did an versus an and we're showing my teeth, and I was like, oh, I was like, wow, that's really what it takes.
Oh yeah,
you know.
That's funny. I think like this of the same. Like if I think of lows, I always think of O, like doing this. And if I think of highs, I'm always thinking in A. Like, yeah. That's like the same thing, that you have to really think and pronounce it. And for highs, you have to like really open your mouth and like close your eyes. And O's, you're like, oh. That's like, yeah, you really have like to incorporate in your face and with the vowels. That's
and it's
thing.
The whole reason for that, which I'm sure you're aware of from just playing around with that, but my students ask me that a lot. They're like, well, why does it make a difference? It's basically because with like, ooh, we're holding the sound waves in our mouth, so they're bouncing around longer. They actually roll around and they spread out. Like, you know, it's kind of like, I lost my train of thought. I was going to give you an analogy, but if I already forgot it, it probably wasn't even that good. Whereas with the high, right? They're brighter. Those sound waves leave our face faster. So yeah, that's totally true. Go ahead.
I think it's also a reason why so many like some sound guys always go mad if they see like the vocalist cupping the mic.
Yeah,
but that's like something every metal vocalist does, and like not every metal vocalist does. Some do, but I think we're doing this because we want like something like a resonance space, something like to have the air bounce around a little bit more, or like to hold the air up, like to let it bounce a little bit more, just to have like this, just let it bounce a little bit more. I think you just need this resonance space. I think that's why we do the cupping thing, I guess.
That makes a lot of sense to me. Now, you know, like I am no like audio engineer, nor like an audiophile. So somebody who's got like a master's in like acoustics and stuff could probably lend more insight. But I think you're right. I think you're 100% correct. And it's funny, you know, cupping the mic is one of those things that I probably should have an opinion on, but I just like don't. You know what I mean? Like sometimes people are like, Mark, what do you think about cupping the mic? And I'm like, I don't really. Like, I just don't. I've done it. I've not done it. It does sound cool. You know, it does. I mean, even when you just did that, like it totally made a difference.
I think, to be honest, like it just makes maybe the vocals sound a little bit more muffled, but I think that's not such a big deal. Come on, I mean,
no.
We could what. Yeah,
I agree. It's not a big deal. That's another thing I don't really have an opinion on that I probably should. People will be like, oh, I only like a vocalist if I can understand what he's saying, or like I only like a vocalist if he sounds super sludgy, and I'm like, I just think it's all cool, man. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Same.
Now I want to go back to something that you talked about, because the way you said it got my vocal coach spidey sense tingling. So I want to ask you about it. I want to ask you what you meant. So you said, you know, like, oh yeah, with a high, you just push 100% and it turns into a high. Talk to me about that, because the way that you've worded it, I'm on, like, just to be transparent, in my mind, I'm like, you know, so like what do you mean exactly? What's your, obviously your vocals aren't messing you up. You've been doing this for a while. So when you say, like, you know, you just kind of push 100%, what does that mean? I want to understand that a little better.
Yeah, I was like a little bit referring when I started. Now you should like have like a consistent airflow and just like change a little bit stuff in your throat and in your face and your tongue, and like just change the resonance space, and like the airflow always should be like consistent. So this way you don't ruin your voice too much, I think. I mean, if you like pushing as hard as you can and just try to do highs, I think, yeah, you're going to ruin your voice eventually, and it's going to feel bad quite soon. And yeah, so I think that's what I meant with the 100%, that you just go at the beginning when you start, you just really try to do as much as you can, and if you like get out a scream, it like feels fine at first.
Yeah. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. Because I was like, whoa. But yeah, no. So that growth that you're describing, that's exactly like I have totally like blown out my voice twice. Both times were very early in my career, and I was pushing as hard as I could because I wanted to be impressive. And you know, now hearing you say like, you know, you want an even airflow and you get most of your tones by like manipulating your resonance space. That's delicious.
Yeah, for example, if you start with a high, and this should always be like the same airflow, like so this was all like same airflow, same push kind of, but I was just like changing stuff up here, which I cannot describe as good as you can, but yeah.
No,
I
totally know what you mean, and you're 100% correct. I would say the only place where maybe it differentiates from that, it sounds like you use the same distortion method for your highs and your lows, right? It sounds like, and I think that that's part of the reason. I think that lends really well to how acrobatically you move. You know, you're moving seamlessly through these lows and these highs. Sometimes you'll have vocalists who use different distortion methods for their lows and their highs, and so sometimes in those cases, there can be some differences in airflow. That's actually me, actually. So for my highs and my lows, I'm doing like this very like, you know, if you ever played like Warcraft 3 or World of Warcraft, like, more work, off I go then. And I dropped my voice out of it. And for my highs, it's just, you know, it's like that more traditional like Nathan Explosion false chord, but brighter. So there is a little bit of difference in airflow there. But with your vocals, where it's like, it sounds anyway, like one consistent distortion type, man, you've got that down. That is like, it is like super buttery. And that's very hard to do for a lot of people too. So like extra kudo points for you. Hell yeah.
Thank you, man. Really appreciate it.
All right, let's listen to more of this banger. Unfortunately, since we're listening out of Dropbox, I can't go back because it takes too much time to load and it just messes things up. So we're just going to pick up from here. But nah, let's go back. Fuck it. We can always cut it if it takes too much time to load. I want to go back actually a little bit of a ways so people can kind of hear that narrative section again. I think this is far enough. Also, this location is dope, dude. Where is this?
Oh hell yeah! This location is like that's a whole podcast story. This location, because
really?
That's like a library from the 1700s.
Whoa!
So from 1744, and it is like in a monastery, like a library in a monastery. And yeah, so this thing is like really old. Everything in there, like the paintings that you see on the ceiling and like the statues, everything is like original. And like it was crazy that we wrote them, like we actually wrote the monastery as mental cruelty, like as like Satan, mental cruelty. And we wrote them, hey you guys, can we like shoot a video in your library? And they were like, yeah, for sure. So yeah, like kudos to this monastery, kudos to the library, to be honest. And yeah, it's such a beautiful place. And in the video, you don't actually see how huge it is. This thing was so big, and you had like this down the place, and then a story up where you have to like. Did you see the priest in the beginning go through like the secret door where the angels like go?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And this is like the place you had to go up. Then you were on the second floor, and there were even more books. And oh yeah, I could talk for hours about this library. Such a beautiful place.
Oh, dude, I would love to. Yeah. I would love to visit. Well, you know, maybe I can, depending on where it is, because I'm going to be in Germany at the end of September and the beginning of October. So maybe I'll.
Great. I'm going to send you the location.
Yeah.
And fun fact, I was talking about the Rituale Romanum in the beginning, where I got like the inspiration from. I found this book in this actual library, standing there,
dude.
Watching to my left, and there it was, Rituale Romanum. It was standing there, old ass book. Was like really, really dirty, and there it was. And then I thought, okay, now this is destiny.
if I'm able to go, when I'm in Germany, I'm going to be busy. I'm going to be working. But if I'm able to go, I'm going to find that book and I'm going to take a shot with it for Instagram. One funny story that you reminded me of. So not very similar, but kind of similar. So back in college, I was very into like paganism and like Wicca and all that stuff. Not really anymore, but I was at the time. And we needed a place to do all that. And the only places that were open were churches. So we called up the church and we were like, hey, so can we like after hours, can we use like your rec room and like draw circles and candles and burn incense and chant? And they were like, yeah, no problem. And we're like, really? And they're like, yeah. And we're like, do you want to charge us rent? And they're like, nah, it's cool. Do whatever you want. And we were like, all right. So we did that for like a year, dude.
Same thing. We were walking around this place because we're all like, I'm not so much tatted, but all the other guys are like tatted to the neck.
Yeah.
And we were walking there and there were like nuns and everybody just doing their business, and they were asking, are you the crazy guys with the loud music playing? And we were, yep, that's us. That's like, sorry, we're done in a few hours.
Oh my god, I love that. I love that. All right, let's dude. That might be one of my favorite stories about you finding the book that I've ever heard on one of these co-reactions. That is so cool. That like you were in a monastery and you saw. God, that's sick. All right, let's go ahead and let's listen to more of this song. I went back a little ways here. Yeah, dude, like that's what I'm fucking talking about. That's exactly what I mean. So, like this section is a really good example of how I think that y'all are doing like genre fusion really, really well. Because a lot of bands, I feel, and this is obviously just my opinion, you know, it's not like fact or anything, but a lot of bands that try to do genre fusion, what'll happen is they have their black metal part and then they have their deathcore part, and then they just kind of go back and forth between these sounds. But this was still in spirit like a very deathcore section, but you had those like those, like I don't play guitar, so I like have no like useful terminology, but those like chiming chords. I know
exactly what you mean.
Yeah, that you hear a lot in like Dark Funeral and stuff, you know. But it wasn't like, hey guys, here's the Dark Funeral part. It's like, oh, I can sense some of that flavor, some of that aroma, like it's in the same like texture palette. And so it's like, you know, this isn't trying, it's not like, hey, we tried to shoehorn black metal into here. It's like, no, this is like organically, that's always a bad word to use to describe like art, but it's the one I used. It's like organically kind of existing in here. So I don't know, I don't really have a question. I'm just like, it's cool. Yep. And you guys are doing a good job, you know.
the guys really try to like write the music like this, that it kind of flows into each other, that you have like this like this so much black metal in there.
Yeah,
but it comes naturally in this part. It almost flows like a wave into it, and I really love the songwriting of Noel and Marvin. We should do another stream just with the guitar guys, I think.
just with the, well, secret inside information. Actually no, I'm not going to say that. But there may be space for that idea to exist. I'll tell you that after we stop recording.
Okay, great. I'm excited.
But yeah, they're doing a great job. So do they like, are they like active like fans of black metal? And if they're not, like, I'm not gonna be like they're posers, because like in Kardashev, we take influence from genres that we don't listen to. We just think that's a cool thing we'd like to incorporate. But like I hear stuff like this, and I could be wrong, but I'm like, at least one person in this band actually does listen to black metal at least sometimes. You know what I mean?
Hell yeah. And I can tell you exactly who it is. And we're looking at him. We are looking at him right now. It's Noel.
There he is.
I mean, all of the guys are such huge black metal fans. Like Danny, for example, like our drummer, like there in the background, he was like coming from a festival to the video shoot to the monastery, and we told the guys, we are at the monastery, like, wear something appropriate, kind of. Like, just a shirt where not like a priest gets his head hacked off or something like this. And
Sure.
and Danny came there with a behemoth shirt.
Nice.
Which had like a really dark something on there. And yeah, but Noel is like the black metal guy in the band, and he was like listening to Behemoth, Dimmu Borgir, Gaerea from Portugal. I don't know if you know them. Love them. Such a great band. They write so emotional music. I love them. MGLA. Yeah, he like really gave me, because I was a poser deathcore kid before I came into Mental Cruelty, and the guys said, so bro, we wrote some black metal stuff that is like sprinkled with some deathcore. Yeah. Now you have to get black metal homework. So Noel gave me like a Spotify list with like a lot of black metal, and he said, listen to it, you're going to get it eventually. And it really was like that. And I was listening to all of this music, and and then I got it. I was like getting into all this nature and this heaviness and this emotional stuff that like black metal really does so well. And yeah, and then when the album was finished, we went to a Behemoth concert because they were on tour with like Arch Enemy, and it was like one of the greatest concerts I've ever witnessed. And now
Nice.
I love black metal, and yeah, still listen to the deathcore stuff, to be honest. But I love black metal so much. But yeah, the black metal guy, we're looking at him right now. That's Novel.
Well, thank you to him for weaving this stuff in so good. And I'll give you some suggestions of my favorite black metal bands. So let me ask you this, and then we'll get back to the song. On that playlist, if you remember, and if you can't remember off the top of your head, don't worry. What band or song was like your favorite on that playlist? Because the funny thing about black metal is it's either amazing or absolute trash. There's like very little in between. So I'm always curious when somebody's like, yeah, I like black metal. Like, what stood out to you? What band or what song was your favorite on that playlist?
It was Behemoth, Blow Your Trumpets, Gabriel.
That is a great song.
I hope that's like the full name of the song, and I'm not pronouncing it wrong.
I think so.
Like, yeah. Blow Your Trumpets from Behemoth.
Nice. It is a good one. When it comes to Behemoth, I really like their down-tempo stuff. Any down-tempo song, I'm going to be super into it. But yeah, I'll give you some suggestions after the video. But I guess for anybody watching, maybe they're curious. My favorite black metal band of all time is called why am I spacing on them now that I'm talking about? Oh, they're my favorite band, but I can't remember. Their album is called Solace. Lengsel is Lengsel Solace is my favorite black metal album of all time. Came out in like 1996, decades ahead of its time.
I was just feeling bad that I don't know him, but now you said they're from 1996, like the album. So
yeah.
I thought, yeah. But to be honest, I don't know them actually. But yeah, I'm going to check them out.
I'll give you the link. Anyway, all right,
Great,
let's keep going. All right, so we're going to talk about that part. I'll Also, shout out. I think he's the bassist, to that guy in that stylish brim hat. Love it. Yeah. He's like, all right, I'll dress up, but I'm gonna do so in style. He looks like he'd like be on tour with like Amigo the Devil, if you've ever heard of him.
Actually, I didn't, but I think it really suits him.
Yeah.
Or great bassist.
But he's doing a great job. So I want to talk to you less about like the vocal techniques that you use there, although we'll probably talk about that as well. And I want to talk to you more about like consistency, right? Because that's something that, obviously, in teaching a lot of people, I teach mostly beginners. I do get some more advanced students every now and then, but for whatever reason, I don't know why, I put off like a very, very friendly vibe for beginners. And one thing that they find, and one thing that they, that we actively work on, is not just being able to create a tone, but being able to open your mouth and know what sound's going to come out of your head. Like if I want to get like a really snarly, like tunnely, like being able to predict that and do that consistently is really, really important. Now, obviously, in the studio or playing live, there's a lot of accuracy you have to have in that very big, broad breakdown section. So I guess my first question that would, might just spark more of a freeform thing is, how long did it take you from starting to learn vocals to whenever? How long did it take you to be able to pretty much always know what sound was going to come out of your head? When did you get that layer of control and confidence? And was there something specific that you did, or was it something that just grew over time?
Yeah, I think it's really something that grows over time, because I think you can say this about techniques, that you hit a point where you think you nail a technique, where you say, okay, now this sounds like a tunnel throat. Yeah, that's definitely a tunnel throat, and now I can do this technique. I'm like from rehearsaling to, okay, now I can nail it. But like do consistent vocals, like always with the same pressure and always without hurting yourself, and like doing different techniques. And I think it comes organic. It comes like it really comes natural, and from time to time. And if you like, one thing that really helped me was like recording music with like the bands I'm working with. Like the first professional band I joined, like, are the guys from Sun Eater, which I'm doing like still music with right now. And then they really were criticizing me in a very good way, and I was like learning so good to control myself and my vocals. And then I took all this stuff I learned to Mental Cruelty, and then we recorded Zwielicht, and then I was like really try to step up my game once again. And it really is like, it comes in waves. I don't know how to phrase it. Yeah, it comes naturally.
I totally know what you mean, and that's I think you hit on a really good point, which is that, obviously this might sound counterintuitive coming from somebody who is like a voice teacher. Like, I teach people how to create these sounds. Technique really only takes you so far. You know what I mean? Like, knowing all of these terms and knowing all of these techniques, it's it's a tired analogy, but it's a good one. It's like driving a car, right? Like, you can read about a car, you can read about the engine, you can read about the transmission and the gear shift and all this, but when you're actually driving down the freeway, you're not thinking about all those individual parts. You're just sort of feeling the vehicle, right? You're feeling the vehicle. And when something happens that's wrong, you're not like, uh-oh, there's this problem or that problem. Something in the car feels funky, right? And so I think that developing that feeling, right, that delivery, where now you've taken technique and it's become something that's comfortable and something that you can use for art. I think that that's something that really just comes from, like you said, trial and error and usage and comfort, right? And I've talked with a lot of people who they've plateaued because they think that they're going to get there by memorizing more techniques, and it doesn't really work that way, in my opinion. Maybe for some people it has. But what you described, I think it rings true for quite a few people. You might have mentioned it, and I don't remember if you did. And if I'm asking you to repeat yourself, I apologize. Do you know, like, roughly about how long it took you to get to that point? Or was it like, I don't know, it just happened so smoothly, I don't really remember when exactly it was?
I think you asked me this question, but to be honest, it's like the same answer like the question before. It comes like a natural process, and you don't really know when you like hit this point where you can do something like very consistent. But yeah, I think the best advice you can give someone is like be really consistent and always like rehearsal and like really try to get into a band, try to record some vocals with some guys or girls, and they going to tell you if it's good or not. Eventually, they're going to.
Yeah. That feedback is important. And, you know, one thing that a lot of people will tell me sometimes is they'll say, well, I don't have a band. But one thing you can do is well, not you have people to play with, right? But for people who are learning and they don't have anybody to play with, there are tons of YouTube channels where they write just instrumentals, and you can join their Patreon for like $1 and then download everything, right? You know what I mean? Or there are some channels where they're like, hey, I write a bunch of deathcore tracks and you can download them for free using this link. So if you just type in like royalty-free deathcore instrumental or, you know, free metalcore instrumental, you'll find tons of channels where either for free or very, very cheap, this is more for the people watching, you can buy those, and you don't have to have anything fancy. Literally, you can have Audacity, which is free recording software, and you don't have to have like a fancy like mic like Lucas and I do. You can have like, you can go to a used instrument store and get a beat up 58 like SM58 for like, you know, $40, and you can get started. So yeah, I think actually using the lyrics is a really important call out. Anything else you want to mention before I push play again?
Nah, what he said.
Yeah, what he said. Yeah.
And
cool.
now press play again.
I'll do it. Here we go.
All right.
So that was sick. So the video, I'm not sure. The video makes it looks like, I think you said his name was Noel. Is he the one doing that clean, gritty singing, or is he just like singing along and that's you on the recording?
No, he's doing the cleans. Yeah, his name is Noel.
Noel. Okay, gotcha.
Noel, as we just say, he's a half Argentinian. So
gotcha.
Noel. But you're doing it quite good. Yeah.
Cool. Well, kudos to him. That sounded awesome. He sounds like a very specific vocalist, and I can't remember who it is. And the first thought that comes to mind is Black Crown Initiate, but that's not right. But there's a very specific vocalist who he sounds like. But yeah, so if you're watching this video, that sounded great. Good job. Loved it. I love that he's going for less of a like rock gritty tone and more of like a, I don't want to, melodeath maybe. I don't know. It's not just like, you know, radio rock. I feel like a lot of times when people put singing in deathcore, they go towards radio rock, which, by the way, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't like it. But I think that was a really good choice of placement, a really good choice of tone. Anyways, I won't go too into that because he's not here. But I just remembered I have 2 questions. One of which I think we went past. 2 questions from one of my students. And if you want, I think this is a good time for it. What do you think?
I think it comes right now. Like this, your allies will burn.
Okay, cool. So
I think it comes now.
You'll know better than me. So I'm going to read the question, and then when I pause, I'll just let you take it. So the question here, and he wrote them out for me because I was like, yo, I'm not going to remember them, so just write them out and I'll read them. His question is, how do you get into your high tunnel scream, like at 4:15, which maybe he has the timestamp wrong, on Obsessis A Daemonio, this song, your allies will burn while still keeping the distortion of that mid-tunnel. So how do you get there while not losing your distortion and articulation with a tunnel throat? So you can answer it now if you want to, or we can listen to it first. It's up to you. This is your oyster.
I think like the section comes right now. So yeah, let's check it out. And if not, I'm going to answer your question eventually.
Okay, cool. Here we go. Oh, you know why his timestamp's different? Because y'all have that in the music video, have that like little mini short film in the front. That's why.
Yeah, we have like the intro, like Midwinter. That's like the first track of the album.
Yes. Okay. Perfect. Makes sense. All right. Here we go. Yeah. That's it.
There it was.
It's almost like you wrote this song. It's almost like you know. Okay. Yeah. So again, he's curious how you get into that tunnel scream while still keeping the distortion of that mid tunnel. Now.
Yeah. I think like the it's more like you have like this tunnel throat. I think you can do in the middle. You can do low, really low, and you can do on the highs. You can really do it like very very low, like very low, and you can do it like in the middle section, like that's very middle, and I think you can do like the high. And we always in the studio, we called it like the goblin scream. Like do it like really go forward with your mouth and go like full goblin and go like yes with pain. You know, like this. And yeah, like fully lean into the goblishness and like feel like really the distortion. And it's more a thing like of the upper mouth that you're like really keeping the tongue forward and you really yes with pain, and you just really keep this and like push it forward and like really feel the goblin, and then I think you're going to get there.
Yeah, and that's. Well, I don't need to repeat everything you just said because you said it really well. But one thing that I want to point out, because it builds on something you said earlier, is that even steady tone is really important. It's like you have your sound, right? And then you have your filter. Most of the tunnel is being created here, like you said, with your tongue forward. So hell yeah, that was an awesome answer, and he's gonna really appreciate that. Anything else you want to add to it?
If I hope he's going to have a great time doing like this gnarly goblin sounds with this explanation. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure he will. And actually, this really
greetings to your student.
Hey, what's up, Curran? Good seeing you. Or not seeing you, but so that actually leads really well into his next question, right? I got to make sure I'm like in frame here. So you had talked about tunnels with your mids, and he has a question about that. So for your mid-tunnel throat scream where you are, let me make the text bigger. For your mid-tunnel throat scream, what are you doing to get the distortion while still enunciating the lyrics well? For me, I bunch my tongue against the bottom front teeth, which we were just talking about, but that keeps me from being able to speak well. I have a hot take, but he's asking you, so I'm going to shut my mouth. Go ahead.
Oh gosh, yeah, that's a hot take. Yeah, because it's always, I think, as a vocalist, you really have to trade in pronunciation for heaviness. I think you especially hear this like with like the sparky lows, where you go like, where you really cannot pronounce any word with that, but I think it really sounds heavy. Like same thing with like the tunnel lows. You go, I cannot pronounce anything. I mean, but to be honest, yeah. So it's really, you always have to like bargain a little bit with your fellow musicians, because what I experienced, they always say, I could not understand anything of the lyrics you were reading. Can you try to pronounce it a bit better? And then you say as a vocalist, yeah, I mean, I can, but it won't sound that heavy, because then my tongue is going to try pronounce like S syllables and all this kind of stuff. So you really have to learn a little bit of a workaround, because of course your tongue is going to be all over the place. So try to pronounce like maybe an S syllable a little bit different. Like try it like with the tongue up against the upper part of your mouth. Just go, not s.
Yeah,
like, that's an S sound too. It could sound like one. I mean, you can. Yeah, it's not that easy. It's not that easy, but yeah, you have to try to get some workarounds. Try to build the syllables a little bit different. Maybe like the people who were like talking with the puppets. How is it called in English? Like
ventriloquists.
Ventriloquist, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like maybe try to do some stuff that the ventriloquist does, because they have to pronounce stuff, but without moving their mouth. They have to find workarounds. They have to find ways to pronounce syllables differently. And I think that's once again highly individual, and you have to find your own recipe. But yeah, that's just how I does it. And if it does not work, I just say, yeah, but I mean, you cannot understand the lyrics, but hey, it sounds heavy. That's great, right?
Yeah,
so, yeah,
entirely correct. Yeah, I love that answer because it's very spot on, and it's exactly you described it very well. You kind of have to say, okay, do I want it to be super heavy or do I want it to be super articulate? And it can be both, but it also, like, if you move the fader too far this way, the other one's going to go down. You know what I'm saying? And I think it's funny that or not funny. I think it's interesting and insightful that you talk about like finding your own pronunciation. So for example, like one phrase I use a lot with my students when we're talking about this is, if let's say I had a vocal that was like, this is carrot cake. Let's say that was my vocal. I would not pronounce it, this is carrot cake. If I was doing a low, I would pronounce it, this is carrot cake.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all. Yeah. And I say the K's with the yeah,
something like that. Yeah.
Exactly. For me, I say it with the sides of my tongue. Like for anybody who's seen, I say "shid the sloth," but I right, and I just spat everywhere. But for a K, I usually do
Yeah.
And in a metal in a track, you know, with your voice mixed in, no one knows. So yeah,
Yeah, you don't do the K with like you do.
Yeah, it's just like that, man. Yeah, it's fun. Yeah.
Yeah, so fun. And yeah, I was watching like a studio vlog from Infant Annihilator, and like I think he gets asked by I think it's the drummer. Like Dickie gets asked, do it again. It really sounds like you have a lisp. And I think, yeah, of course it is. Your tongue is all over the place.
Yeah.
But great Infant Annihilator. They did not trade in any heaviness for pronunciation, I think, to be honest.
No. Well, he's also like vocally. Now this is just my opinion, but vocally, I think Dickie Allen is like one of the best. Like he is able to just do a lot of things that other people can't, and he can do a lot of things that I can't do, and that's just the nature of the beast.
He's one of the greatest to do it, definitely. Yeah,
agree. Now one last question before we finish the song out. Is this guy, I want a certain answer, and I know I'm probably not going to get it, but is this guy an actor y'all hired, or like, I just imagine he was at the monastery and you're like, yo, you want to be in our kind of satanic-ish black metal video? And he was like, yeah, sure.
Yes. Sorry, I was interrupting you.
No, you're good.
That would be a fun answer, but to be honest, like the real answer is even more interesting, because do you think this guy seems familiar to you? Do you have the feeling you've seen him before?
I have not had that feeling yet. No.
Okay. Did you see Ultima Hypocrita?
Yes, I did. Wait a minute. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's the guy. That's
same dude.
That's that's I think his character's name is Antonio, and that's the same dude. That's like the dude in like Ultima Hypocrita, which his toe is rotting off, and he's like running through the woods, and that's that's the same guy. And maybe the stories are a little bit connected.
Whoa, are they connected?
They are. You're going to read it in the down there in the description of of Obsessis A Daemonio. But I won't give away too much now. But yeah, you're going to read it down in the description. But yeah, it's the same guy. It's the same guy.
Okay. Hell yeah. Well, I won't pry too much then. I'll leave it for when people actually look at the description of the video. Well.
But his name is Marcus. He's like really the best. He's been with the band for a really, really long time, and he was also shooting. He was the cameraman for Symphony of a Dying Star, where we're like jumping into the ice water, and he was like he was in the ice water before me, like not testing it out, but like put down like air tubes that you have like this at the beginning where the air comes up in Symphony, and he's like the best guy. He really. he's just the best guy, doing everything for the band and for the shoot.
Dang. Well, Marcus, we love you. Thank you for your hard work.
Marcus, we really do love you. All kudos to Marcus. Yeah.
Everybody, thank you, Marcus. All right. Looks like we've only got a little bit more, so I'm just gonna finish the song out, and then we can talk a little bit and wrap it up. How does that sound?
Hell yeah, let's do that.
Let's do it. Here we go. I love that. Damn. Well, that was thick. I love that outro, that like, that's just a sound that I love. And then you had a moment, you only did it once, but it was perfect, where you had like this really fast rapid fire staccato. I don't know what you were saying, of course. But that like open section, quick little staccato articulation, and then out of it, that is with those guitars, with those chimey chords, that is such a good combo. It's like ham and cheese. It just fucking works, man.
Right, yeah. But I hope it sounds like pure black metal.
It sounds great. It sounds great. And you know what? One of the things I like is y'all are pulling from like one of my favorite like eras of black metal. Because like now, obviously black metal is like a really big thing. It's not just like, you know, music recorded in a basement under a record store with a potato anymore. There's atmospheric black metal and symphonic black metal. And there's black metal mixed with like early Appalachian American folk music, right? Like there's just all sorts of stuff. Panopticon for anybody who's interested. And y'all are pulling from some of my favorite black metal sounds, which is just really cool. Very like I said, very Dark Funeral, very like Belphegor, very like Gorgoroth, and I really like those bands. I think they're very good. Again, I haven't researched them all, so if anybody in the comments has, just let me know. You know, and I'll change my. But anyways, this is a great song. This is a killer song, and I think y'all did a really good job. Yeah, I mean, I feel like we could talk about this for like another 3 hours, but we both have lives and things we got to do. But I think at the end of the day, I think rather than talk about individual things, because we've actually gone into technique and like the nitty gritty more so than I usually do in these videos. Somebody who is self-taught, you know, what things would you say to new vocalists, whether they're taking lessons with me or somebody else, or they're doing full self-teaching? What sort of tips from your experience would you want to give new vocalists, people who are really wanting to not just learn vocals for fun in the car, but really like get on your level, like this expert level? What would you say?
I would say, like, I think the most important thing is really consistency. That you like, I mean, of course, that's a boring answer. Like, yeah, rehearsal, consistent, and like do it over and over again, and a lot of time, like 3 times a week in your car, try to scream and try it. But yeah, this will really get you along the way of like learning how to scream. Like, do it really consistent. Like, get your voice used to it. And I always like compare it with like playing tennis. I never really played that much tennis, but if you played tennis at the first time and you played like for 4 hours, and it's so fun because like it's a new sport to you, and of course your arm is going to hurt like the next day. And of course your voice, if you like start screaming, your voice is going to hurt, or maybe it sounds bad at the first time. But yeah, I think that's normal. Your voice is going to get used to it. Your body is going to get used to it. You're going to build up this this thing of learning how to scream. And yeah, so I think like, yeah, if you are a professional tennis player, of course you can play 4 hours and your arm's not going to hurt, because over years and years your body's got used to it. Give yourself that time. And now I think we come to like my second advice is, don't be so harsh on yourself. Give yourself that time. It's completely okay to sound not like your most favorite deathcore vocalist. That's completely fine. It took us all years to get there. That's what you sometimes don't see and don't hear, like in maybe some interviews or in some of the vocals and the songs you hear. You don't see all this process of learning years and years how to master these techniques. I mean, I don't want to sound too much professional. I mean, there's not much to it, but that's just, yeah, don't be so harsh on yourself. Give yourself some resting time. Just try to be consistent, and eventually you're going to succeed. You're going to get there, and that's all there is to it by my understanding.
That's excellent advice. That is phenomenal advice. And you know, you're right. There, when you're first starting, there is like a certain level of fatigue, like muscular fatigue, that like is normal. Obviously, you don't want to carry that into like your continued voice, but you know, it's okay if you get a little bit tired after a little while. That's totally true. And you know,
if your voice is raspy, that's normal. If your throat tastes like blood, that's not normal. I mean, just watch your body.
For a second, I thought you were gonna say that's normal, and I was gonna be like, no, it's not.
Nope.
No.
Yeah, bad advice. No, that's not normal. Like, watch your body, of course. You know, like. But I'm sorry, I was interrupting you again.
No, you're totally fine. I actually, when you jumped in, I was going to say, I don't remember the next thing I was going to say. Oh, but it was, yeah. You talked about the length of time. That is so important. That is so important. I always, the question I asked you earlier, how long did it take you to get consistent? I actually do remember for myself how long it took, roughly, to be able to go and know what sound was going to come out of my head, like 99% of the time. It was about 3 years. It was about 3 years for me to like be able to, it took me 3 years to be really comfortable with my voice. Like really like I can go into the studio, warm up, and I know I'm going to put down good tracks. You know what I'm saying? And that's why, you know, this is blatantly a little bit of a plug for sure, but that's why like you will never hear me say learn a fry in 30 days, get your false chord down in 2 weeks. You will never, if you go and you go to Cardivox Academy and you do check out the e-course, there's the plug, it's my channel, I do what I want. You will not get a time guarantee. It's not going to happen because it's just not how it works.
Yeah, you're simply not gonna. It also took me years.
Yeah, and now you're a fucking beast, bro. You know, and you're doing tones that I'll never be able to do just because our voices are different. Our arytenoids, our false chords, the shape of our vocal tract is different, and I think that's another thing as well. Like, you know, in classical singing, you know, you've got like your bass, your tenor, your dramatic bass, your dramatic bass baritone, your lyrical tenor, you know, and a lot of that comes from, right now, I'm not like pretending to be an expert at like classical singing. This is just some of the things I do know, comes from the anatomy that they have, right? And so, you know, that's another thing to keep in mind, but I could talk about that for a very long time. Well, that's it. I mean, you've been a ton of fun. I've really loved picking your brain. Anything else you want to add before we wrap up the video here?
Yeah, I mean, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. It was, once again, it's a great honor. It's so much fun to like talk with you about like vocals and really get really nerdy. It's so fun. Yeah, it's, once again, thank you so much for having me. And thank you so much for enjoying the songs. Thank you so much for enjoying Nautilus. Thank you so much for enjoying Obsessis A Daemonio. And for the people out there, thank you so much for this great response on Zwielicht that we're having right now, like the new album we got out. And it's been a tremendous thank you so much for the warm welcome for me as a new vocalist. I mean, it's always interesting if you get introduced as the new guy. Yeah. Really love that people like the new vocals. And that's all I gotta say. Thank you so much, and it was really fun like chatting with you.
Hell yeah. Well, thank you for being here. Tons of fun. I had a great time. If you're out there and for whatever crazy reason you haven't heard Mental Cruelty yet, go listen. Really great music. Like, share, subscribe, blah, blah, blah. If you're interested in lessons, go to cardivoxacademy.com. And as always, many thanks. Much love. I'm out.
Bye-bye.